Hello from Hell, September 2020. Hell is an interesting place. We visited a city called Manhattan that is very much like Cusco and that place with pyramids in Egypt that we visited last year. There are large monumental buildings that were abandoned by people once called office workers. It appears that a plague or a disaster of some kind forced people to work in little glass prisons instead of the cement prisons they occupied in these buildings before the misfortune struck. Manhattan was abandoned around the time that fires in the western part of the North American continent drove masses of refugees to the interior, where they were met by a species of predators called trompers that shot them dead when they tried to hunt and catch the wild pigs that are very numerous then around the year 2020. There are many other interesting things in hell that one day you'll learn about from the bots. For example, everyone around that time became an art critic. They criticized the mediocrity of the houses where lived the faces they saw on their screens. Some of these faces lived in large libraries that had no poetry books in them, and all of them had some kind of wiggly art that was placed between shelves or in their tool sheds. And this art of wiggles of worms or tubes or eye floaters that nearly blinded the people looking at them, some of which are interpreted as alien messages. This was also about the time that nobody remembered any longer anything that happened more than 2 seconds before it happened. They nervously consulted little black boxes that are quite collectible now that we remember, way before now, when we remember everything, including things that never happened to us from the chips in our heads. If you're at all interested in hell, I suggest that you also read these books written in real prisons by real people in a hell before this one. Here are some of them. Boethius' Consolation of Philosophy. Why do the innocent suffer? This comforted a lot of people in hell before the current hell. In fact, it still may be so if read now. Poetic Justice, The Civilization of the Heart in Mallory's Morte d'Arthur. A Prisoner of Circumstance, Cervantes, Don Quixote, and Literary Self-Authorship in the Early Modern Period. Cervantes was a writer in hell who wrote his book in prison, in hell. Thomas Paine and the Age of Reason, again a forgotten text that was written in prison. Thoreau's Rhetoric of Resistance, a book in which a writer named Thoreau advised people to actually go to prison for what they believed in, because back then people actually believed in things. Epistle from Prison, Oscar Wilde's De Profundis, Epistola in Carcere et Vinculis. Oscar Wilde, another writer from another hell, lived in a time when we had bodies, and he was put in prison for having one. Bertrand Russell, World War I and Analytic Philosophy. Bertrand Russell was, again, some kind of person who lived in a hell where his ideas would lead directly to prison, and some of them misled enough people to place them there. His Majesty's Hotels, Gandhi's Satyagraha in South Africa. Again, Gandhi, well-known pacifist in hell back when people thought that being peaceful was a good thing before the Trumpers started hunting them down. Jawaharlal Nehru's Discovery of India, the writing of history, fighting for freedom in Ahmadanagar jail. Another book written in hell was called Drifter's Escape, Adolf Hitler and the Writing of Mein Kampf. The book was Mein Kampf, which Hitler, whose name the bot knows well, was another world destroyer who found hell interesting. Jean Genet, who was condemned to death and was freed from prison into the hell of France at a time when hell wasn't really so bad if you're not in prison. But Our Lady of the Flowers was written while he was condemned to death, so Genet was not feeling great. Later, he joined the Black Panthers against the hell of America. Said Khatib wrote Visions of a Perfect World in the Shadows of Prison, and again, these visions of a perfect world are the world we live in now before the hells described herein. And I will leave you last with a letter from Birmingham jail written by Martin Luther King Jr., another apostle of nonviolence like Gandhi, who likewise misled people thinking that change will be had by goodwill, and that if one had enough people doing this nonviolent thing, the Trumpers will not shoot them. Well, it remains to be seen. From the future, your favorite butt.